look at yourselves and ask yourself, how much did you actually have to work for your talents? Intelligence is something that is inborn, something that is innate. You were born with a certain amount of intelligence. You were born with a certain capacity to understand and to digest new information. Even though that can be modified later in your life, given the schooling you receive, given the training you receive, a lot of that is determined by genetics. Why does that make you more liable to certain good things? Why does that mean you deserve certain good things more? Why does that mean you deserve certain rewards when other people, just by the chance of birth lottery, happen to not have the gifts you have? Principally, it is completely unfair to reward people based on arbitrary grounds of what intelligence they are born with. Some people might have genes that allow them or give them the direction to work harder than other people. Some people might find it very difficult to focus, to work hard, etc. Again, a lot of this is innate and genetically determined. So it is completely arbitrary for us to reward certain people above others just because of their inborn talents or because of how hard they work.
Is the American dream a lie or just a rigged game? Sharon Shaw steps onto the hallowed stage of the Oxford Union. Armed with personal experience and a fiery proposition, meritocracy is a myth. Prepare to have your illusions shattered because the truth is about to be unveiled. They say hard work pays off, but what if the starting line is miles apart? Shaw challenges the very foundation of our beliefs, exposing the systemic inequalities that make a level playing field impossible. Is it merit or merely inherited privilege? She's not just debating, she's exposing a societal illusion. Ivy League dreams or a legacy nightmare. The numbers don't lie. Shaw reveals the shocking reality of elite admissions, where wealth trumps merit every time. Are we rewarding talent or just family trees? Even if talent were recognized, is it fair to reward the genetic lottery? Shaw takes the argument even deeper, questioning the very concept of innate ability and its role in success. Is it justice or just another form of inequality? She's not just arguing, she's challenging our moral compass. Forget the feel-good stories. This is about the raw, unfiltered truth. Are you ready to face the reality of a system designed to fail the many for the benefit of the few? This isn't just a watch, it's a revolution in perspective. Don't just listen, question everything.
I'd like to start off this motion with a personal anecdote. I was born and raised in Hong Kong, a purportedly meritocratic city. I have fond memories of being shoved into piano lessons, swimming lessons, dancing lessons from the age of 3, because my parents were reasonably well off, they had connections, and they were able to send me to such classes knowing that it will prepare me well for the future. In the same city, I lived with lots of other students who did not have such an opportunity. I lived with lots of other people who had to languish in local schools that were underfunded, that did not have the opportunity to learn to speak English properly because Hong Kong did not recognize English as an important enough secondary language for most of the students that studied there. That is why, personally, I firmly stand on the side that there is no merit to meritocracy. I will be providing 3 arguments in my speech. Firstly, how there is no real meritocracy that currently exists. Secondly, that the narrative of meritocracy erodes the common good. And lastly, that meritocracy is principally unjust. Before that, it falls upon me to introduce the speakers on the opposition side. Speaking first on opposition, we have Daniel Dipper, the press and sponsorship officer from Magdalen College, who is also the JCR president in his college. I'm quite surprised that he is on opposition in tonight's debate. Given his work for access and social mobility, I think it would be quite difficult for him to argue that meritocracy is a good thing and exists. However, I don't think I need any further insults for Daniel, given you're going to hear him speak right after I finish my speech. The second speaker on side opposition is Adrian Woolridge, who is a political editor and columnist for The Economist, which is a publication that I have read devotedly from the age of 10. He was surprisingly normal at dinner. I was trying to get some weird quotes off him so I could kind of poke fun at him for this debate. despite being an All Souls Fellow. So props to him for that. The third speaker on side opposition is Bin Aflami MP, the Conservative MP for Hitchin and Harpenden and the patronage of multiple charities. I think that as a Tory MP, he would be trying very, very hard in today's debate to talk about why meritocracy exists and should exist, given the policies that his government have been implementing. The last concluding speaker for side opposition is Jacobus Peterson, a good friend of mine and a member of Secretary's Committee at St. Peter's College. I think that the fact that he studies geography speaks for itself about the quality of the speech you're going to hear from him. These are your opposition speakers, Mr. President, and they are most welcome. So, first argument for my speech: why there is no real meritocracy in today's society. Let me give you an example of Ivy League admissions, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, given the scandal that has plagued the front page of news in the past few months. There are currently more students in Ivy League universities from the top 1% in America than the bottom half of America combined. Surely that says something about the so-called meritocratic institutions that the Ivy League is so proud of. Surely it says something when legacy admissions are given so much priority, when you have privileged parents who are able to donate millions of dollars to build new science and technology centers that guarantees you a place of admission. All this, and Oxbridge admissions as well, as we are all familiar with, shows that meritocracy is not real. The current system we live under says that we are able to use our abilities to get what we want. Says that if we work hard enough, if we're smart enough, if we're talented enough, we can do whatever we want in life. This is exactly what the American dream tells us, right? If we work hard enough at a tech startup, we can become the next Jeff Bezos, we can become the next Elon Musk. The sad reality is that that just isn't true. Your family background, your upbringing, everything informs how much you're going to succeed in the future. If you are born to well-off parents, you are much more likely to be in the upper middle class or in the upper class when you graduate from university. Let's just track the life of a normal kid who is from an upper middle class family. They go to preschool, that is, $50K a year in America. They learn the best languages, they go for extracurricular activities, they learn French, they spend their weekends in museums, they spend their weekends looking at art, appreciating music, opera, everything, from the young age of whatever, like 5. This continues when they're in primary school, when they're in secondary school, when parents are able to provide the best education to them that costs thousands of dollars, which the normal family just cannot afford. With this education, they get lots of different contacts from different people. They get connections to the rich, to the elite, to the wealthy, and they're able to get into a college of their choice where their parents donate millions of dollars, or even when they are getting private tuition for their SATs, when they get private tuitions for TSAs to come to Oxford, for example. Yes.
I thank the Honourable Lady for that. Is the proposition's case that we have a meritocratic system, or is it that we do not?
I argue that the current system purports to be a meritocracy, but is not actually a meritocracy. It is merely a guise under which people are told that if you do badly, if you suffer, you deserve it. And that's why I stand so firmly on side proposition. Second argument, on why the narrative of meritocracy erodes the common good. Let's assume for a minute that meritocracy does actually exist, and that you are rewarded based on your talents and your hard work. Why is meritocracy still such an awful thing? This is because meritocracy justifies doing absolutely terrible things to people who, through no fault of their own, are in unfortunate circumstances. For people who have lost their jobs, for people who currently are suffering because they're homeless, because they're under a credit system or a welfare system that just doesn't give them enough to live day by day, under a government that has cut £20 off a welfare system which people live off of. This is what meritocracy justifies. When you tell people that where you are currently in society is completely because of the effort you've put in, and this is the reward you get if this is what you have put in, this justifies doing absolutely awful things to people. It justifies no redistributive system. It justifies leaving people in the dark. It justifies people falling through the cracks because you're telling them that they deserve this. When in reality, as I've told you, people don't. People are born in unfortunate circumstances. People might make a mistake and lose their job and never be able to recover from that. That's why the narrative of the meritocracy itself erodes this idea of the common good and makes society much worse off than it is. No, thank you. Third argument, why meritocracy is principally unjust. So again, let's imagine a world in which meritocracy actually exists, unlike the one we currently live in. Let's assume that everyone is actually rewarded based on their talents, based on their hard work, and there isn't actually money, wealth, power that comes into play, that your birth does not determine how well you actually perform later in life. Why, even in such a system, do we still believe that meritocracy is principally unjust? Look at yourselves and ask yourself, how much did you actually have to work for your talents? Intelligence is something that is inborn, something that is innate. You were born with a certain amount of intelligence. You were born with a certain capacity to understand and to digest new information. Even though that can be modified later in your life, given the schooling you receive, given the training you receive, a lot of that is determined by genetics. Why does that make you more liable to certain good things? Why does that mean you deserve certain good things more? Why does that mean you deserve certain rewards when other people, just by the chance of birth lottery, happen to not have the gifts you have? Principally, it is completely unfair to reward people based on arbitrary grounds of what intelligence they are born with. Some people might have genes that allow them or give them the direction to work harder than other people. Some people might find it very difficult to focus, to work hard, etc. Again, a lot of this is innate and genetically determined. So it is completely arbitrary for us to reward certain people above others just because of their inborn talents or because of how hard they work. Ladies and gentlemen, when you choose which door to walk through tonight, ask yourself this. Most of us here are Oxford students, but have we worked much harder than other people who didn't get into this institution? Or is it because we were born with certain talents that we didn't work for? Is it because we were born with certain talents just because our parents happened to have good genes that gave us the ability to succeed in this institution? If you think any of these things, make sure to walk through the door of the eyes. Thank you very much.
Sharon Chow's proposition against meritocracy at the Oxford Union debate presents a compelling challenge to the widely held belief that success is solely determined by individual merit and hard work. Drawing from her personal experiences growing up in Hong Kong, she highlights the stark socioeconomic disparities that undermine the very foundation of meritocratic systems. Her argument centers on the idea that not all individuals are afforded the same opportunities or resources to succeed, rendering the concept of a level playing field a mere illusion. Shaw contends that the narrative of meritocracy, while seemingly appealing on the surface, ultimately weakens societal cohesion and undermines the collective welfare. By emphasizing individual achievement, it fosters a sense of competition and division, eroding the sense of shared responsibility and mutual support that is essential for a thriving society. She raises serious concerns about the inherent injustices of a meritocratic system, questioning its fairness and its impact on those who are disadvantaged from the outset. One of the most striking examples she uses to illustrate the flaws of meritocracy is the admissions process at Ivy League universities, The fact that these prestigious institutions have more students from the top 1% of the income bracket than from the bottom 50% combined speaks volumes about the unequal access to opportunities that exists in society. Legacy admissions, which favors students with familial connections to the university, further exacerbate this inequality, undermining any claims of meritocracy. Cho argues that the belief that hard work alone leads to success ignores the significant advantages conferred by wealth and upbringing. Wealthy families are able to provide their children with superior education, enriching extracurricular activities, and valuable social connections, all of which contribute to their higher chances of success. This creates a self-perpetuating cycle of privilege, where the children of the wealthy are given a significant head start in life, regardless of their individual merit. The unequal access to quality education is a key factor in perpetuating this cycle of privilege. Wealthy families can afford to invest in expensive private schools and tutoring, providing their children with an educational advantage that is simply unattainable for most families. This disparity creates exclusive networks for the elite, further undermining the notion of a truly merit-based system. Cho also points out that meritocracy often blames individuals for their circumstances, ignoring the systemic failures and factors beyond their control that contribute to their situation. This blame the victim mentality can be particularly harmful to those who are already marginalized, as it undermines support systems and allows them to suffer without aid or recognition. Even if talent were recognized fairly, Cho argues, meritocracy would still be unjust. True meritocracy implies that rewards should be based solely on talent and hard work, disregarding any advantages conferred by birth. However, intelligence and capabilities are largely innate, raising the question of why some individuals deserve greater rewards than others simply because they were born with certain advantages. Furthermore, rewarding individuals based on inborn talents overlooks the role of genetics and personal success. The distinction between hard work and inherent ability raises fundamental questions about fairness in merit-based recognition. If some individuals are genetically predisposed to certain talents or abilities, is it truly fair to reward them more than others who may work just as hard but lack the same innate gifts? Cho's critique of meritocracy extends beyond the economic sphere to encompass the social and ethical implications of this ideology. He argues that the relentless pursuit of individual success, often at the expense of others, can lead to a decline in empathy, compassion, and social responsibility. A society that prioritizes individual achievement above all else risks becoming a cold and uncaring place, where the needs of the vulnerable are ignored. The emphasis on competition inherent in meritocratic systems can also have a detrimental effect on mental health and well-being. The constant pressure to succeed, to outperform others, can lead to anxiety, stress, and burnout. The fear of failure, of not measuring up to the standards of a meritocratic society, can be particularly damaging to individuals' self-esteem and sense of worth. Cho's proposition challenges us to reconsider our assumptions about success and fairness. She argues that a truly just society is not one where everyone has an equal opportunity to compete, but one where everyone has an equal opportunity to thrive. This requires a fundamental shift in our values, from a focus on individual achievement to a focus on collective well-being. Her critique of meritocracy is not a call for complacency or a rejection of hard work. Rather, it is a call for a more nuanced and compassionate understanding of the factors that contribute to success and failure. It is a call for a society that recognizes the inherent worth and dignity of all its members, regardless of their background or achievements. Cho's arguments resonate with many who feel that the current system is rigged against them, that the deck is stacked in favor of the wealthy and privileged. Her proposition offers a powerful challenge to the status quo, urging us to strive for a more just and equitable society, where opportunity is truly available to all, and success is not solely determined by the circumstances of one's birth. In conclusion, Sharon Cho's proposition against meritocracy is a powerful and thought-provoking critique of a system that often fails to live up to its ideals. She challenges us to examine the underlying assumptions of meritocracy, to acknowledge the systemic inequalities that undermine its fairness, and to strive for a more just and compassionate society, where opportunity is truly available to all. Her arguments serve as a crucial reminder that true justice requires more than just equal opportunity. It requires a commitment to ensuring that everyone has the resources and support they need to thrive.